Dwayne Lewis here from Grace Madison Media, and I'm joined by Rob McKay, who is the Managing Director of Sherrington Associates in Chester, who are executive recruiters. Good morning, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Dwayne. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming back. Last time you were with us, we were having a very interesting conversation about the Great Resignation, and some really key themes came out of that in terms of, people just reevaluating what's important in their working career and in pursuing that. But today we're going to talk about a little piece of literature that's actually published on your website called A Time Like No Other. So can you tell us a little bit about that and why that's important?
Yeah, sure. So some context first. Sherrington, as a business, we've been recruiting senior leaders for over 20 years. And I would say it's probably fair to say we've had some ups and downs and experiences some challenging economic conditions during that time, but nothing quite like the impact of the global pandemic. And I think our economies, our lifestyles, our very existences were threatened as they never have been through the pandemic. And when you add climate change and all the other geopolitical instabilities that people have been anxious about over recent years into the mix, you had an unprecedented level of fear and anxiety. So during the pandemic, we observed some incredible feats of corporate resilience, some really inspiring innovation that was going on in businesses, and that determination to survive, from businesses in all sectors. So knowing the lessons that we'd learned through business ourselves, talking to some of these chief execs, we knew we wanted to capture the moment. So A Time Like No Other was really about sharing the lessons with as many people who could benefit from them as possible. And that's why we published it.
Oh, fantastic. Good stuff. And without giving too much away, what are some of the key takeaways from the document?
Well, you'd have to read the book. But,
I said don't give too much away.
well, we've got the digital version, but we've also got hard copies as well. But no, generally, the thing that struck me the most, I think, despite the diversity of industry sectors, and as much as there was loads of very nuanced individual sectoral challenges documented by the leaders that contributed to the book, the main challenges were largely the same. So, overnight adaptation to home working, mental health, and trying to keep a constant positive level of mental health during prolonged periods of lockdowns, forced evolution to digital. I think some companies found that a lot more difficult than others. Financial anxiety over the unknown, recruitment issues, supply chain issues, and of course, real tangible health issues in terms of COVID. So very sort of universal challenges. But then in terms of how companies dealt with the challenges, and I'm again not going to spoil the best bits because you will have to read the book, but what I found talking to all of these chief execs was that despite the early losses and these unprecedented challenges, the reason that they're all still here trading today is because of their people. And the stories about people and culture were truly inspiring, actually.
Just to change the subject slightly, I noticed that you guys also do quite a bit of work in sustainable leadership. There's an interesting narrative on your website about that, what you do. But for everyone listening and watching now, can you explain a little bit what actually sustainable leadership is and why it's important?
Yeah, sure. So it's not a new term. The term's been around for decades. But put simply, the University of Cambridge, who are the accepted thought leaders in the subject, their chair, Dame Polly Cortis, at their Institute for Sustainable Leadership, she defines a sustainable leader very, very simply as a leader who inspires and supports action towards a better world. So there's no debate now that climate change is real. I think we've moved on from debating its existence to an almost universal acceptance now that it is here and the threat is existential. So sustainable leaders really are leaders who are willing to devote their careers towards making their organizations more sustainable. And they're leaders with the requisite skills, knowledge, traits, and leadership styles to enable their organizations to help tackle these overwhelming challenges.
Well, Rob, thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. Will you come back and speak with us again sometime?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Okay, take care and have a good morning.
What if I left anything